Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Randy Tate. I am the CEO and co-founder of Flipping Wall Street. And I want to say a big yay, welcome to Jennifer Hammond and all the radio listeners out there in Sirius Land that heard our conversation on the radio over the last few days and were able to take the time out of their Sunday afternoon to sit down on a webinar with us to learn a little bit about Flipping Wall Street. Jennifer, are you on?
Yay! I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
I can. I can hear you loud and clear. Welcome to our call.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited because you're a teacher and you're passionate about teaching. And this is something that so many people don't understand, including me. I mean, this is something that I'm learning more and more about. And I'm so excited to be here and do this with you. So thank you for taking your time to do this.
Absolutely my pleasure. I'm happy to do it. So without any further ado, shall we get started?
Yes, let's do it. Go,
Okay. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about who we are and who's talking to you. Now, obviously, right there, front and center in the middle is the lovely Jennifer Hammond. For those of you that might be listening to this as a recording later, just a few things about Jennifer. She is an absolute awesome radio personality on SiriusXM. She is all things real estate. She's a guru. She has an amazing talk show. And I was introduced to her in an entrepreneurial sense and have had lots of conversations with her. Did an interview on her radio show over the last week or so, and just an amazing personality. So again, Jennifer, I want to say thank you for being here and welcome.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I agree. It's so thankful. You know, it's one of those things when you feel like the blessings of meeting the people that really help you in life. And I'm so happy to know you. So thanks, Randy.
You are quite welcome. And so a little bit about the Flipping Wall Street team on either side there. That's me on the left, Randy Tate. And like Jennifer said, my past life was a school teacher. I spent my first 10 years as a professional in the education field. I have a master's degree in education, and I taught science and coached football. And if you'd have asked me when I was 21, I would have told you that's what I'll be doing the rest of my life. However, I live in California, and I did figure out that there's a cap on how much you can earn and the cost of living and what it takes. So I became an entrepreneur. As I became an entrepreneur, I ran my first company up north of $5 million in revenue, and then sold it to a publicly traded company and was able to get back sort of into the teaching field and educating and training small businesses. And that led me to this position here where I'm at today, because I met Kelly Korshak, my partner, business partner on the right there. And Kelly is one of those guys, and I'm going to say this so everybody can refer back to this part of the conversation throughout this whole presentation. Kelly went to Stanford at the age of 16. He has degrees in statistics, finance, mathematics. He then went to advanced graduate school at the University of Chicago. For those of you that are maybe not familiar with that, that is in the education world as good as it gets. That is up there with the Harvards of the world. And it led him to a position where he used his algorithms to run risk management for Deutsche Bank. Putting that into other words, he basically was handed $6 billion and said, don't lose it. That's what you're going to manage. He's managed multiple hedge funds, and the guy is just a genius in the area of math. And I just wanted to take a few minutes at the beginning so that all of you understand who is talking to you and where our information is coming from. Anything else I should add there, Jennifer?
I think that's really just the most important part, is that Kelly is kind of the brilliant brain behind what we're going to learn more. Obviously, you know, we're going to learn some other stuff, but that's really important. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So what are we actually going to talk about here on this call? Well, we're going to talk about myths, and more myths. You see, many of you on this call come from the real estate world. Jennifer, real estate expert, real estate talk show host. We know real estate. And the reason we have such a big community of real estate investors or people trying to create wealth in real estate is because we've been taught, and here's our first myth, that in order to create wealth, we need to pick either real estate or the stock market? Well, that's the first one I'm going to dispel right now. No such thing as steak or lobster. It's in our world, it's steak and lobster. And so a myth is something that we believe is true, but is actually false. And I'm going to talk about a lot of those over this next 30 to 40 minutes with you guys. And let's just jump right into those. What's the first one? Diversification is the best way to reduce risk and beat the market. Many of you have heard this. Wall Street wants you to believe this, because with Wall Street, when you believe that diversification is the best way to do it, you put your money with an advisor or you buy a mutual fund and you let somebody else manage your money in a very, very diversified way. In our mind, we've been taught that reduces risk and allows us the best chance to beat the market. Let me ask you, Jennifer, have you ever heard this?
I have. I've heard this, and of course, I'm the expert in real estate. So this is one of the things that I've heard a lot, and it's really interesting to learn that it's not completely true to have diversification in the market, right?
Correct. It's not true at all. It is a big, fat myth. And we scare people into doing that. The best way to reduce risk and beat the market is through the use of algorithms. And we're going to talk about algorithms a little later. Many of you don't even know what that word means. I know it's confusing sometimes, but we're going to talk about it. So there you have it. We've all heard that this is a good way, but in fact, that's a myth. So what else? It's impossible to time the market. If it's impossible to time the market, what do? Well, I just give my money to somebody else, let them manage it. How about that, Jennifer? You ever heard that one?
I've heard that too. A lot of people say that it's just impossible to time the market, which is funny because I know you're talking about Wall Street, but I can tell you, like with real estate, it is not impossible to time the market. There are very, very, very clear indicators of how to time the market. And, I had somebody ask me one time, well, what do you do when you lose money in real estate? And I'm like, well, why would I lose money in real estate? I always time it so that I won't. And I think that's an important thing, is that it's not impossible to time the market, at least not in real estate.
And that's true in the stock market as well. It plays on our fears. So when we're playing on our fears, by Wall Street, here, let me give you guys just this little nugget. Wall Street, by pushing the myth that it's impossible to time the market and convincing people that if they want to play in the market, they need to just put their money, park it, and leave it. By doing that, Wall Street's able to pass the risk on to Main Street and allow us to absorb that risk, which we're all afraid of, so we go invest only in real estate. We're here to tell you that is not 100% the case. All right, let's talk about one more. Your money must be invested all the time in order for it to grow. You must never sell, never take your money out of the market, never try and time it by moving your money around, because we know the market over time will always go up. If the market over time will always go up, shouldn't we just leave it in there? And that, since this is our last one, Jennifer, what about this? Have you ever heard this?
Yes, and that's the one I've heard, is that's the safest way. Even when I was a kid and I was kind of looking at, Disney stock, I was told you just put it in and you just leave it. You never take it out.
Yep. And so, again, this is a myth. My question would be this to everybody out here for you to ponder as we go through the rest of this presentation. If it was possible to time the market, why on earth would you leave your money in the market when it was mathematically probable that that particular stock would go down? It just makes no sense. So therefore, that's what we're going to talk about through the rest of this presentation. I'm going to show you lots of examples about how it doesn't work, and then I'm going to talk to you about how we use algorithms in software to take that away and play against the myths. Fair enough?
Yep, right. Sounds good.
All right. So about 2 years ago, when I started talking to people about this, I kept asking this particular question to lots of people everywhere I went. I speak on stages all over the world, and these are all real answers that somebody gave me. You see, we've got a few problems going on right now with people that are even the Gen Xers, particularly as we roll up into the baby boomers. Those generations of folks are running into problems. And because of that, as I ask questions and I talk to people and I specifically ask this question, this is what it's led to. That right there, you see where it says shoebox? That's a real answer. I met a guy
Mattress.
in Seattle that wouldn't put money in a bank, wouldn't buy real estate because the government would take it. So every dime he could save, he put in the shoebox in his closet. That, folks, is not the best way to plan for your retirement. I've also had people tell me things like, I'm just going to sue somebody, or I'm going to win the lottery. And that mindset has led us into a situation where we have a lot of people that are rolling into their older years with some serious problems. And my partner, Kelly, you heard me talk about him. He says this to me all the time. Randy, do the math, do the math, do the math. Math doesn't lie. Okay, so let's do some math. Everybody loves math, right? Well, look at these statistics, and I want you to ponder this for a moment as we go through it. At age 65, the age of 65 right now in North America, the average retirement savings is 104 grand, and 29% have zero. So when you hear those numbers, what does that make you think of, Jennifer?
I don't know that, I mean, it's kind of scary, to think that, that's not going to be a whole lot of money,
No, I mean, how long could you live on 104 grand?
Not a long time.
Exactly.
Unless I move to the Caribbean and or some country where I can live on $5 a day.
Yeah.
But not in the United States that I know of.
Not and have electricity, at least.
Yeah.
And how about this? And people don't ponder this very much, but I ponder this all the time. If you're the guy with the shoebox and you want to be retired for 20 years and you only want $5,000 a month, you need $1.2 million in that shoebox.
Which is a shocking number.
It is a shocking number, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of money to just have set aside right now.
Yeah. And we always think that someday I'll get to that. Right? And the reality is, if we make it to 65, we know that we're going to make it somewhere between 84 and 86 on average. And if you make it to 90, 96, 106, you still have to eat. So if you've noticed, folks, there's a large increase of people in that 60, 70, even 80-year-old category working at Walmart, working at McDonald's, taking jobs that are not their career, and they're not doing it because they're bored. They're doing it because they have to eat. And so I want you to just keep that in the back of your mind. And how many people do you know that are at that age or approaching that age that could be in a situation like this? So that's where we're currently at. That's where we're currently at. This is why we're having these conversations. This is why Jennifer's so passionate about the real estate world. This is why I'm passionate about wealth creation and helping people get into a position where they can live the way they want to live after 60. So I always ask this question to people. So do you think the system's broken? What do you guys think? Is it broken? Well,
yes.
See, that's the common answer. Everybody says yes. But the reality is the system's not broke. This is the way it was built. It was designed this way specifically to function as it functions today. How does that make you feel?
Terrible.
Yeah, it's not good. So what do we do about it? Well, remember these? How many of you guys at one point in time paid for your cell phone by the minute? Jennifer, did you ever pay by the minute?
Yep, and it was terrible. I remember having a few, panic moments when I got my bill.
Because you talked too many minutes in the wrong time zone at the wrong time of day, right?
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Those were awesome. That was a good time. Now I'm going to guess I'm just guessing here, but you probably don't talk on by the minute anymore, do you?
Nope, I have unlimited, and of course it's so much cheaper now.
Yeah, now it's like $29 a month, $39 a month, unlimited talk, or $89 a month. You got your darn internet and everything all paid for too. So this was a system that wasn't broke. It was working the way it was designed, but it wasn't working in the best interest of the consumer. And so the consumer started complaining to the point where somebody changed the game and came along and said, hey, buy my new Motorola Razr flip phone, whatever it was, and for $29 a month, talk as much as you want. And almost overnight, this went away. Another industry that had this happen to it, taxi cabs.
Yeah.
What happened? Remember, look at taxi cabs. They were everywhere 5 years ago even. Now, I haven't ridden in a taxi cab in I don't know how long. I take Uber everywhere I go.
Yep.
So what happens is we evolve. And our industry, the financial services industry, has evolved as well. And it started way back in the 20s, right after the Great Depression. Mutual funds were developed. Now, mutual funds are basically a bundle of stock that are actively managed. So I want to make sure everybody understands this. An actively managed mutual fund means that you have a big group of stocks put together and a manager has been hired and paid a fee to run it, to invest in it, to manage it, to be actively participating with it. And they generally charge 2%, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but on average, they'll charge you 2% to be in that fund. Now, your fund manager will take that 2%, but your advisor that puts you in it will also charge you a fee. Well, then along came ETFs. Same idea as a mutual fund, but trades more like an individual stock. The whole thing trades in a lump. And this constitutes the majority of portfolios these days. And this is passively managed. And this usually charges around 1%. Well, now we've changed the game a little bit more because we have Flipping Wall Street. And Flipping Wall Street, we came into existence because we saw some problems. And we are able to actively manage your portfolio. You know, how many of you on this phone call or this webinar would be okay if I told you that I was going to just give you Kelly, my partner, who's managed billions of dollars, to privately manage your portfolio where you don't have to do anything? Yeah. Yeah, that's a big yay right there, right, Jennifer?
Yes, I'd be so excited. I mean, just totally think about that. To have somebody who's been handling billions and used to work for the super elite and all of a sudden to be, helping me.
Let's put that into perspective. The last fund, the private fund that Kelly managed, if you wanted him to manage it and you wanted to be part of that fund, it was $100 million buy-in. I mean, that's
a lot of money. Say that again.
Yeah. In order to get Kelly to manage your money previously in the private fund, this is Wall Street private elite, $100 million buy-in. That means you had to have that much money in cash available to invest. So we are allowing that type of active management for the masses because our software is algorithms designed by Kelly that automates the trading for you. You never have to trade yourself. The software does it for you. Because we like to say, when systems are broken, that's an opportunity. Invention and innovation. We're more in the innovation world than the invention world. We didn't invent anything brand new. Now, Kelly's algorithms are unique, but algorithms itself are not new. We are trading the market, again, not new, just like Uber, you still got to get from place to place, just doing it a different way. So we are excited to be talking to all of you right now because we're at the very front end of changing an entire industry. And we're doing it on the back of algorithms. Now, just out of curiosity, Jennifer, just give us your knee-jerk reaction to a definition of an algorithm. People struggle defining it.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm probably not the best. I would say it's a math formula.
Yeah. You know what I like to say? This might be funny. It's a word used by mathematicians when they don't want to explain what they did.
That's fabulous.
Well, that's not the real definition. The real definition of an algorithm, and this is right out of the dictionary, is it is a procedure for solving mathematical problems in a finite number of steps. Now, let me put this into real estate language. Jennifer, are the folks on this call familiar with Zillow?
Yeah, so Zillow is the public-facing kind of multiple listing service for people.
Yeah. You can go into Zillow and type in your address, and what does it give you?
Well, unfortunately, it's going to give you a zestimate, which is terrible because sometimes they're correct and sometimes they're totally incorrect.
Exactly. You made my point perfectly, and we did not even rehearse that. Yes, they
No.
give you the zestimate, but that zestimate is created based on an algorithm.
Right. Yeah.
That algorithm takes all the mathematics around that neighborhood, puts it in a little pile, and it kicks out a number. It doesn't have any way of telling how nice that house is on the inside. Has there been any upgrades? Did the last person that lived there destroy it? Is it pink? They don't have any way to know that kind of stuff. The stock market, though, is much more predictable than a neighborhood. And our algorithms are designed specifically to take advantage of that predictability of the stock market. How you like that?
I like it. Ha! What'd you say? Do the math. Do the math. When the math is doing the work for me, then. But it's the same thing with real estate. You know, we don't do a deal unless we do the math. You know, that's why I said I don't lose money on real estate. And I've never done that, you know, knock on wood. I mean, I'm not trying to jinx myself, but I think that if you do the math, it's, you know, it's what protects you. I mean, nothing is foolproof, but we're trying to do the math to make it solve a problem for ourselves.
Yeah, because math does not lie, and math does not have ego. Math does not have an opinion. It's just math. We love it. Not so much in high school, but I love it now.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's talk about that. So now we've discussed what the problems are. You know, we've taken the first 15 minutes or so to really outline what's going on in the stock market world, why people don't invest and put their money in other places, and what's unique and different about us. And I want to address one more big problem with the current system, and that is fees. Now, the fees are outrageous. I met a lady a few months ago that had $1.2 million being managed by a bank. I won't say the name of the bank. And that bank charged her $39,000 in fees in 2017.
Wow. That's terrible. That is highway robbery. That's outrageous. And she probably didn't even understand that either. That's the thing that I hate. And that's one of the reasons I haven't really been super excited about stock market period is because I feel like I get taken advantage of by those.
Yep, you do. You do. So I just want you guys to know this. I'm going to show you some very specific numbers on a couple of slides, but just know this. Traditionally, in the way in which you play in the market, if you're in an average portfolio, the amount of money you pay in fees in less than 15 years will be greater than the amount of money you invested, no matter how much you invested, which as a result will cost you 100% more of your return.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Crazy talk, Randy.
Crazy talk, but true. All right. Now, last slide that I'm going to prove once and for all that these myths are myths, and I'm going to prove it with math. This is my favorite slide of every presentation I do. I always include it because I do think it's that powerful. So we're going to take all the myths together, and we're going to go back to 1987. All right? We're going to start with $100,000. And we're going to buy into diversification is our friend, that we do not want to take our money in and out of the market, and that we must always leave it fully parked because we cannot time it. So let's see what happened since 1987 to the end of 2017 with that 100 grand. So I want to diversify. So I'm going to take that 100 grand. I'm going to spread it out over the entire NASDAQ. Would you call that diversified?
Yep, that's diversified.
That's diversified. Well, in 1987, there was a giant crash. Everybody knows about it. If you were around then, you remember it. One of the biggest, worst days ever in the history of the market. So you would have finished 1987 with 73 grand. But you bought into the myth. The market will always go up. So you leave it in all the way through the 90s, and the tech boom was phenomenal. The stock market grew like crazy. So your 73 turned into 421. So at this point, Jennifer, would you be happy with believing in the myth?
That if it went from 73 to 421, I would think Yeah, I would
Yeah,
like, wow, hey, things are going
absolutely.
good.
And those of us that were around at this time remember what a booming time that was. And then the dot bomb hit. Silicon Valley fell down, all the tech companies fell apart. So now your 421 was down to 126. How do you feel now, Jennifer?
I'm not feeling so good.
Not feeling so good. So you believe in the myth, though. So you ride it out for another 7 years. And it was a decent 7 years. So by 2007, you were back up to 237. Now, I know I don't need to mention to the people on this call what happened to the markets in 2007, 8, and 9. With
For the
that
real
big,
estate.
yeah, real estate, the credit crash. But what we don't correlate is that when the stock market or real estate take a big, giant hit, so does the other one. So
Yeah.
we only talk about the fact that the credit crash hammered real estate. Real estate went down, markets crashed, banks are falling apart. What we don't even put much attention on is the impact it had on the market. So that by 2008, even being in the NASDAQ, which there's no real estate stocks in there, not many, your 237's down to 104. Now how happy are you, Jennifer?
Not happy.
But you leave it in through 2017, which the past 10 years have been the best in the history of the market. And your 104 grew up to 318. So you're a little happy again. But in the reality, that's a whopping 2.5% per year pre-tax gain.
Yeah, not so big.
Not so good.
Not so good.
So the question for everybody is this. If that's the case, and that's what the myth produces, what would it look like if we could just choose to skip those three? If we could dispel one myth and say, yes, we can, in fact, time the market, such that when these things begin to occur, we're going to take our money, we're going to pull it out of the market, and we're going to wait till they're over, and we're going to put it back in. That same 100 grand, same amount of time, $2.1 million.
And that's amazing. That would make me happy. Then you could retire.
Exactly. And that, folks, is exactly what our software does. Our software times the market, avoiding the dips, pulling you out before the big catastrophic downturns. Yes, you'll turn down as well, but wouldn't you be happy if you're in the market and you lost 2% when the market lost 10? That's a win.
That's a win.
Put your money back in. So one last educational slide here, and I put this slide in specifically to illustrate what it takes to get to $1 million of liquid cash. This works in real estate. This works in the stock market. It doesn't matter what we're talking about here. This works. So this chart will show you how to go from $0 to $1 million of liquid cash. Don't confuse them with assets. Liquid cash, and how long it'll take you to get there. So look at the chart right here. See where it says $500? This is in the monthly contribution column. You contribute $500 a month, and you just save it. You put it in that shoebox. You're going to get to $1 million in 166 years. Love that laugh. So
my health is not quite that good, I think, in this body that I have.
Yeah, I'm not going to make that. So my next question is, I look at this monthly contribution. Let's go all the way down to $1,500 a month. And let's go all the way across the top to a 20% return. We could get to $1 million at this rate in 13 years, 13.7. And I want to make sure I say this clearly because I confuse, sometimes real estate folks look at me funny. I'm talking about $1 million of liquid cash, not $1 million in assets.
Well, and you need $1 million. Didn't you say was it 1.3 that you need?
1.2.
If you retire, 1.2 if you retire at 65. So $1 million's not even everything you need, but that's like, so $1 million's a good benchmark on, you need to find a way to create $1 million.
Absolutely. And we know this, if we can get you to $1 million, here's the difference in the shoebox and you taking $5,000 a month for 10 years and what we're talking about. Same $1 million inside of our portfolio. We know we're going to be north of this 10%. We're going to be in these columns every year on average. Once I get you to $1 million, Jennifer, I now have locked in for you somewhere between $1 and $300,000 a year in passive revenue for the rest of your life. How's that sound?
That's amazing. That's amazing. And that's something that, again, is what we really want to have, is that passive income that is, again, going to help us at retirement age. So important.
Yes. And then at the end of the road, I get to leave the million to somebody, my church,
Yay!
my charity. Yeah. Yay.
I like that.
That is the fact of it. And that is a very important chart, whether you're in real estate, whether you're in whatever your wealth creation plan is. What are you going to do to get to that million, and what are you going to do with it once you get it? And so that's what we're talking about. Now, when I take that, now I want to just dumb it down to the simplest terms. I'm going to take you through a series of slides that really talk about the fees and the way our software works. Now, our software charges fees just like everybody else. However, there's a big difference, and I'm going to use these next few slides to point this out. In the current reality, and we're going to go with a small amount, we're going to start with $10,000. We're going to contribute $75 a month to our retirement. I'm hoping that most people on this call are able to figure out a way to put $75 a month towards retirement, towards their portfolio. We're going to say that the brokerage is only going to charge us 2%. They probably put us in a mutual fund, and they're doing it for free. Realistically, it's 3-4% that we get charged on average. In this case, we're just going to say 2%, and we're going to say that our ROI is 8%. So after the first year, that $10,000 would be sitting at $11,384. Why? Well, I want you to understand that this 2%, because it comes from your brokerage account, even if it's only $1, that dollar that gets pulled out of your account, you didn't just lose the dollar, you lost the lifetime earning potential of that dollar. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope you're able to gather that. Does that make sense to you, Jennifer?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that more again, I know.
Yes.
So it's important to understand that, because that's a huge difference when you take the money outside from the principal, from your base.
Yes, when you take the principal when you take the fees from there, it's a big difference. Now let's look at this. Using everything the same, we're going to pair straight apples to apples with our software. Now, same 10 grand, same 75 a month, but our fees from brokerage are $1 per trade, which we know on average is $10 a month. That's what we know. It's pretty close to flat. And we charge you a subscription for our software along with the same return, but the subscription fee does not come out of your brokerage. So the money that's invested does not pay that subscription fee. This is very important. Just after the first year, that means you're going to be sitting at $13,900. Everything's the same. The only thing we're adjusting is the fees. That's just after 1 year. So now
that's not even accounting for the fact that you're probably going to make a better ROI. But you're just saying if everything was exactly the same.
If everything was exactly, and I'm going to show you what the reality looks like here in a second. So now let's take that to 10 years. So now here's the same exact chart, except we've taken it to 10 years. Here's the difference. Here your 10 grand would turn into 30 grand. Over here, it would turn into 42. Just because of fees. Again, we're not returning better than them. This is apples to apples. Would anybody in this call be okay with an extra 12 grand? I think the answer is yes.
Yes.
So now let's push it all the way out to 20 years. You see how the spread keeps getting bigger and bigger? It doesn't correlate equally because this 2% continues to grow, whereas this fee structure over here does not. So this is the difference after 20 years on a simple $10,000 investment. Now, let's look at real numbers. If you're like me and you're confident that Kelly and Kelly's algorithms and his track record and everything he's done, if you can believe that he could beat that 8% by even just 2%, and he could get 10% a year. And I'm going to show you some real portfolios in a second. The difference in that 2% over that same time frame, now look at the difference. 67 grand to 134. Is that significant?
That's huge. That's a very big difference.
That's a very big difference at our minimum threshold. Now let's just what if? What if we're able to get you 15%? Now look at the difference.
Wow, that's crazy.
It is nuts. And it's people sometimes their jaws drop a little bit. And so if our algorithms can produce this year over year, you can have that. Now, if you start with 15, 20, 25, 30 grand or put more than 75 a month away into that, it grows exponentially faster. You can only have so many combinations that I can present, but I just wanted you guys to see that so that you understand the power of algorithms and the power of a SaaS model, signing up as a subscription to a software versus paying the money out of your assets. Did that help explain it a little bit, Jennifer?
I think that's a good, I think that's really good because it's really important to understand, again, the math, because the math gets complicated. But the biggest thing the biggest takeaway is that what you're doing when those fees hit you, it's just really hurting you, especially over time. It doesn't seem like it's hurting as much, but it really is hurting you so much compounded over time.
Yeah, it is one of the most important pieces of information we must articulate. So now let's take a little look at our software. I think it's awesome. I like showing it off. So here is a slide I call the importance of cash. More along the lines of earlier, the blue line you're looking at right here, folks, represents the S&P 500. Again, plenty of diversification. Here's the 2002. Look, it took a big dip. And look here, 2008, it also took a big dip. The red line represents the system using algorithms. So when the algorithms determine that the mathematical probability is that the stock itself will go down, or in this case, the whole spider will go down, it takes you out. Anytime you see a flat line like this right here, it represents cash. It means you've been taken out of the market and put into a cash position, waiting until such time that you can go back in. And does it make sense, Jennifer, does it make sense how coming out here and sitting in cash and waiting, even if you have to wait a year to put your money back in, is a good thing?
Yeah, I think that's again dispelling one of those myths that you always need to be in the market. And I think it's really important to be able to change your mindset about what maybe somebody had told you before, because sometimes it's better, again, to be liquid and to have the cash rather than to be basically in a losing game. Why play the game if you know you're losing?
Well, exactly. And that's what we're talking about. And the market's been pretty awesome this year for us, at least. It's made some pretty important steps that allow us to prove exactly what you just said. So the algorithm allows us to lose less. Sometimes people look at me funny when I say that, but the trick to making money in the market is being able to lose less than the market. So let's look at this little slide right here. The yellow represents the S&P 500 since January of 2017. A rocket ship for the year, up 20%. Up another 5.2% in January. And then in February, just in 1 week alone, it took a 10-point dip. Now the orange represents our software, 24%. And remember back to the chart, we did 24% return on investment in 2017. Not 20, 15, or 10, 24. Now, we matched the market also in January. We grew up by another 5% and change. And right around here, if you can see my cursor, my phone started blowing up because people were wanting to know, even though they'd heard me talk about it, why their money was in cash. Well, the algorithms are able to time the market such that by the time this week happened where the S&P took that big dip, by the time that happened, over 50% of the money, our software trades, had already been removed from the market and was sitting in cash. That's why they were sitting in cash. Then all of a sudden, we took a 2% drop. They took a 10% drop. Who's happy? We are. That makes sense?
Yay!
Yeah,
Yeah.
yay!
Yay!
And
That's good
those
stuff.
are the real numbers of what our software is doing. And right now, more than 50% of the money we trade is currently in cash as well. Because the market's volatile, it's likely to go down a little more. When the likelihood changes, it'll come back in. So now let's take two examples of real portfolios. I want you guys to see what this looks like. So right here's the portfolio. Apple, Amazon, Facebook, NVIDIA, Adobe, Apple, Gilead, Spider, Alibaba, and American Tower. 10 stocks. That's as diversified as we get, folks. What I want you to notice here is that each stock is attached to a strategy. In this case, Apple's paired with Basic Stop. Well, Basic Stop, those are just the naming conventions of the algorithms. One of the very unique things that we do that nobody else has, there is no other software in the world that does this, is inside your portfolio, each stock gets its own unique and special algorithm attached directly to it. It's not correlated on the market. Doesn't matter. Apple doesn't care what Amazon does. And the math around Apple in the Basic Stop algorithm doesn't care what Amazon does. It's going to continue to allocate 10% of your portfolio, in this case, to Apple in this algorithm, and it's just going to trade. And you can look and see right here. There's your equity curve since 2016. And what I really want to draw your attention to down here is the P&L. Okay, yes, 2016 was great. 2017 was spectacular. However, the market did 20 points. This portfolio did 86. But more importantly, I want to draw you to this 6.7%. The market's down about 10 points right now on the year. So being up 6.7 means we're beating the market by 16%.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
that's huge. That's huge.
Well, yeah, in the real estate terms, if you look at appreciation, home appreciation values, how nice would it be if you were able to sell your houses, Jennifer, 16% above and better than the appreciation?
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
Yeah. And it's fun, right?
It's fun. But again, it's indicators and it's the math. You really have to understand what you're doing to make that happen. So that's why I'm so excited that Kelly's the math man.
Yeah, me too. And if you look at the equity curve, Kelly always makes me point this out. Smooth. No massive drops.
Yeah.
One more. Here's another one. This one's screaming for the year. Having a great year. Here's the portfolio. 10 stocks, each with its own algorithm. But I want you to really notice on this one, notice the equity curve. Notice how smooth it is. Big jump there, but smooth, smooth, smooth. That's the idea behind it. And this is what it actually looks like. These are screenshots from actual people's portfolios. Just wanted to give you a few to look at so we could talk about it. So, Jennifer, we are a community. And people always ask me, hey, what do I get when I join your community? And I'm going to, if you guys have questions, feel free to type them in if a question pops up, and I'm going to pull up the questions here at the end when we get to the end of this. So what do I get when I join the Flipping Wall Street community? Well, you get our software, of course, and you get a lifetime of upgrades. Any new upgrade, new features, all that, you will never be charged for that. You get a newsletter every single week, or in some cases twice a week, that Kelly himself writes. If you're not interested in learning or knowing about what's going on in the market, you just want your money there, you can opt out. Nobody's feelings get hurt. But a lot of people like to know what's going on. You also get access to our training platform. Some people like to know what's going on and they want to learn about those things. Kelly does a ton of training. I also do a ton of training because we operate in an affiliate model. What an affiliate model means is that we do word of mouth marketing, just like QuickBooks. My most recent professional career, I was an executive at a company called Infusionsoft. And one of the things we did there was go to market with our software through partners and affiliates. So we want people to make referrals to us, and therefore, as a business trainer and a small business expert, I've been building out a ton of small business education and training as well. You don't have to do any of that. It all comes with your software. When you buy the software, you become part of a unique community that's committed to protecting, preserving, and growing your wealth. How's the subscription fee paid monthly, and will that ever change? I'm starting to read some questions as they pop up. Our subscription is monthly, and it is $79 a month. And we are a little over 300 customers currently. We've agreed, my partner and I, that our first 500 customers, that will be locked in. It'll never change. They will pay $79 forever. And that's just part of what we're doing. We did some things for our first 100. Now we're doing some things for our first 500. There will be a couple other things roll out as we go that the people that came on first will get. And so we want to just keep people rolling in into a subscription platform. Another unique thing about us is we've had a total of 4 people quit our software since they paid the setup fee, they paid the $79, and then something happened that they quit. I want to make sure I'm clear about that. People do quit subscriptions. One guy, he quit after 4 months. He had done 20% return. Now, I don't know about the real estate world, but Jennifer, would you guys be happy with a 20% return in 4 months?
Amen. 20% is good. I mean, it's a good return. So, yeah.
But he wanted
that's part
300.
of the education is understanding how much money that actually means to you, especially compounded over time, so that you don't make a bad decision. Because we don't get taught. I know you know this, Randy, but I'm so passionate about financial literacy. I want people to understand it and be able to take responsibility for their money, but we're not taught it in school. And a lot of times we're not taught it at home. So where are you going to learn?
Exactly. And it's so important that we do that. And that, as we start looking at the portfolios and how we set these things up and the people we are working with, we want to build a platform that changes an industry. We want to let the average person have the opportunity to invest. Another question here, is there a minimum to invest? Yes, there is a minimum to invest. Interactive Brokers, the brokerage house we work with, they to set your account up, you need 10 grand. It's a $10,000 minimum to set it up unless you're under 26 years old, in which case it's 5. And that's sort of where the math really starts to work, is at 10 grand. You can also use IRA money, self-directed 401k, Roth, any type of self-directed investment money can also go in there. I'm just going to keep in. We got a couple other questions here. Who picks the portfolios? We pick the portfolios together. You're fully open and available to pick it all by yourself if you want. Perfect. We will build one for you. No problem. We like to educate, like Jennifer said. I want you guys to be educated. I want you to learn a little bit. I want you to spend an hour on the phone with us, learn how and why we build portfolios the way we do. Kelly has trained all of our onboarding folks in a very specific way to build these, but you're always welcome to do it yourself. There's always people out there that really want to join. They want to do it themselves. And so you're welcome to do that as well. And that's what we're here for. Will 401k dollars roll over is another question. Yes, 401k dollars roll over just fine, as long as they're self-directed and you're not still in your W-2 job. Many W-2 jobs won't allow you to self-direct that. And so you will, in that case, if it's a 401k that you don't have the ability to self-direct, then we can't do anything with that one. So another question right there. All right, look at that. We got a lot of good questions going. So, more questions. Stock, I have to start or leave it alone. So should I sell the small amount of stock I have to start or leave it alone? That depends. When you buy our software, you would go through an onboarding process. And Jennifer just, she went through hers recently as well. And in that process, we're going to help you determine whether or not you would want to sell that, or we would just transfer it. We can move stock over to our brokerage account, and in some cases, have our software just take over and decide when to sell and when to trade. It's pretty. That's a big thing that we like to do. We tell people don't run off and do it right out of the K. This is a 401k with an old employer. Then yes, we can absolutely move that. No problem. Super easy, actually. We can move trusts. Anywhere your money is currently being housed, we can house it. Well, questions just firing in. There we go. Oh, got that one's already been answered. Perfect. Got it. Awesome. So what's next? What do we do from here, and how do we get going? Well, we know a couple of things, Jennifer. We are, like I said, a community. We're committed to helping everybody get going. If you go to Flipwall, and then don't run off yet. If you go to flipwallstreet.com, you can hit the get started button and get going there. And I got a couple more questions popping up. I'm going to try and keep asking them. Are initial dollars protected anyway? Initial dollars are protected simply by the same governing laws of any brokerage house or a clearing firm. That's why we use Interactive Brokers. They're the largest brokerage house that's in the online space in the world. They're bigger than E-Trade and TD Ameritrade combined, and your money is housed there. So the risk you would have with your money would be that the stocks, and you saw some of the examples of those portfolios, go to zero. And if all of them go to zero and stay there, then there's not a whole lot we can do for that one. Can we accept retirement funds in an annuity? No, we can't accept them in an annuity, but what we have been doing is have people close out their annuities depending on where they're at with them and what that looks like from a penalty perspective. All right?
Because it depends, again, on the numbers, on whether it'd be worth it to make sense or not. Right?
We need to do the math. So here's a couple of things. This is where you would go to get started. However, I know because you're Jennifer Hammond, folks, you guys want a special certain kind of deal. So,
yay!
Yeah, Jennifer Hammond special. We're going to write these down. I'm still going to keep going through the questions here. To start to get, I talk someone, or is it? Nope. Every part of what we do, because we set that subscription up for you, is we're very hands-on. We do not want you to go online and just try and do it. And Jennifer, could you talk a little bit about onboarding and the experience of working with our team?
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to stress is, even though it's a software and it has automation and there's a lot of great stuff, the thing is this is not something where you're just going to go to the website and sign yourself up and figure it out yourself. This is there's hands-on, and I know Randy has a special for you tonight with the first so many people that sign up. He's going to actually work with you directly, but the team that he works with, because I work with several of the people on the team, really goes through, because I have IRAs, that I've used in self-directed for real estate for a long time. So, bringing them over and then understanding the different ways that I can invest in different, models and stuff. It's a really fun process because, again, it's educational. The guys are super, super sweet. Of course, if you're lucky enough to get Randy, he's awesome as well. But I mean, you can work with any of the guys on the team because everybody on the team is so knowledgeable. And if they don't have an answer, they'll find it within just minutes of anything you can possibly throw at them. So, trust anything that you have out there that you're interested in and you want to see. It's really, I think it's great because, again, it's not like you're just going to the website. This is not just, even though it's software, it's not like you're not left alone, which is what happens so often with, some of the newer things that come out. It's nice because there's a combination of this automation that is also making your life simpler, like you used Uber as an example earlier. But it's also being so cost effective in the long run that I think it's really, really worth it. But you have hands-on from the very beginning. It's not like you're just left out there in the sea by yourself.
Yeah, we actually insist on it. And 98% so far of our people that purchase our software, when they buy our software, within 2 weeks they're set up. Some take a little longer because they don't reply to emails and things. We won't say names. But
I was going to say, the other thing is, though, Randy, one thing I think is important is it's really cool in the fact that you can have the software and you can play around with the software in, and I forget what you call it. It's not the paper trading, but it's simulation. So you can actually play, because of course I come from the real estate background. So the stock background is not my expertise. And so I need somebody else to help me. So one of the things I am, it's been, I've been playing around with it for months in simulation mode because I really wanted to see for myself. And I think that that's something that's really good too, is to be able to play with it in simulation mode, in the paper trading kind of thing where you're not using your money yet, but the software doesn't know your money's not in there. And so you can actually play with it and really see the results yourself. And I really like that.
Yeah, and when people buy the software, we don't once they buy the software, we don't start charging them monthly for 60 days because we want them to get set up. We want them to do it right. We want to make sure they've done some simulation, that they've played with it a little bit. There's not another question is how much time is involved in managing this. Once it's all set up, which that process might take you an hour or two, you're going to have about an hour per quarter, maybe 3-4 hours a year of total time invested to take care of this. It's a very hands-off process. You could do more if you would like, but that hands-off piece is very important. And so, yeah, and that, that's where we're at. I think that's most of the questions. So the Jennifer Hammond special, the Yay special.
Yay!
You guys might have noticed that you had that little special code to text. Well, that's also your promo code. So when you go to that website, flipwallstreet.com, and you hit get started, it's going to take you through an order form and a process.
Yay!
When you use that code, Yay 24.95, it's going to take $400 off the price of the software. And the first 10 people on this particular call, because this is not going to be available on the recordings. They might try, but it won't be available. They will get the first 10 people. Kelly's going to personally and privately design your portfolio. And if that's not motivation enough, I don't know what is, because Kelly is pretty amazing. It'd be like playing basketball with Michael Jordan. So, folks, that's what we got. Jennifer, any last few thoughts, questions? Oh, wait, a few more questions. Look at all these questions.
I think people have a concern that it's time consuming, and it's definitely not. I mean, I am an extremely busy person, and the onboarding is about an hour. And then if you want, you can be really involved. But if you don't have to be very involved. It's whatever you want to do with it. That's the point of software.
The time involved is very, very small. It's going to take you an hour and most and a little change to get yourself fully set up. And we are built on a platform that is designed for the average person. I can take in an hour, I can show a 7th grader how to build a portfolio that could beat the market. It is that easy. We've made this to the lowest common denominator of simplicity. I'm a school teacher. I have designed it specifically for the person who knows very little about investing, but knows that they need their money in other places to be working for them. It's really important for that. And I want, if you don't know the markets, and I see there's a few questions on here about that. There's a few questions on there about that. So at the end of the day, when you get to that point, we're going to set it. We're going to teach you how to do it. It's going to be that easy, and it's not going to be a huge lift. Now, the software is discounted to $24.95. That's the one-time setup fee and purchase, but that also gives you your lifetime subscription forever. And then it's just $79 a month ongoing moving forward. And
Randy, yes. The one thing that I saw in the questions that I think is really important, because I am an expert in real estate investing and not in this one. I thought this question is really important. It says, I've never invested before. How is this for somebody who's never invested? What would this be like? And to me, I think it's like the perfect solution, but what would you say, Randy?
I would say exactly that. It is the perfect solution. We are designed to allow the person that knows nothing about the stock market to take advantage of to take advantage of our software and trade in the markets the way the wealthy do. I mean, the really wealthy do. This isn't for the rich guy that drives a Mercedes. This is for the guy that owns Mercedes dealerships or owns country clubs and private jets. This is the very, very elite of Wall Street are able to trade this way. And we're now making it available.
I want to say one of the other questions that's on here, Randy, that I think is really important is someone who has a very specific goal to retire at a specific time and be able to purchase a home and have a very specific very specific goals. And when you do that onboarding, as well as, talking the first 10 people, can you help with that specific goal?
Absolutely. That is, we'll build it. We'll build it accordingly. Depending on how long you have, how much you have to invest, we can build that for you quite easily, actually. It's one of the things we spend a lot of time doing. That revenue model is not that difficult to build. We can take it from the perspective of, okay, I want to average this much is the goal. So I'll need to invest this much because the fees and how it all works. I'll personally build that out for you. That's easy and happy to help.
Awesome. So, Randy, I think that was the one thing I really wanted just to people to know, that if you've never ever done any kind of investing, you have a team. One, you have a whole educational platform to really learn about it, but you also have people to call and ask questions, and people who are not going to look down their nose. I think that was probably the thing I used to hate by going into some of the big brokerages when I first started, putting together an IRA and stuff, is that people were really snotty to me, and I didn't know. And I wanted to be able to ask questions, but I was afraid to ask questions. Anyway, that's something that I think is really important about you and your team, is that you're willing to answer questions and you're willing to help people.
We are committed to that. We definitely are. And I'll edit this last statement out, but any of you that really want to get in touch with me, my email address is randy@flipwallstreet.com. Feel free to email me directly. I'm not going to send that out to the world, but anybody on this call that wants to do that, randy@flipwallstreet.com. Shoot me an email if you have any other specific questions or concerns, and I'll be very happy to walk you through any of those.
Yeah. That's very generous. Thank you, Randy, because I think it's important that people have that, all their questions answered, so that if they have any questions before they, if they're thinking about buying, that they can actually talk to you directly. So thank you. And
I'm happy to do that. I like what you do, Jennifer. I love your community and how you guys are all set up. So anything I can do to help you guys, I'm very, very happy to do that. And then we just keep getting the questions. Look at them go. How long is 400K promotion to approachability show? And Jennifer, thank you. Has been so informative. Excellent. So, the $400 special is for Jennifer, and you must use that code to get it. There is no other way to get it. Otherwise, unless you just want to give me $400 extra.
Don't use it invest it. Don't give it to Randy.
Don't give it to Randy. We will honor that. I will tell you this: it takes a minute to get in line and get on board and all that. If it's going to take you a few weeks or even a month to get your funds put together, then go ahead and get the software, get onboarded. And Jennifer's been simulating in the software for several months, and that's not uncommon. We have people that like to practice, and they just like to play with it and watch it work for a few months before they hit the go live switch. And setting yourself up early will definitely help you with that.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I'm going to say it because you said it. It's randy@flippingwallstreet.com. So if you want to email Randy.
Flip, not flipping.
Oh, flip. I'm sorry, flip. That's important. I'm glad you said that. So randy@flip, FLIP, wallstreet.com.
And I mean, at the end of the day too, folks, if you go to our website, flipwallstreet.com, and there's an info we don't have a humongous team yet, so you can feel free to send emails to that, and if somebody doesn't answer it, it'll filter its way back to me.
Thanks so much, Randy. I really appreciate all of your everything, just being so honest and helpful and committed to. What did you say? You said on the radio, I loved it. Your goal is to help 1 million people. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's my personal mission, is to change what 1 million people believe is possible for themselves and their lives.
I love that.
I'm committed to that.
Yay!
Yay! All right, guys. Well, we took a full hour, so thank you very much for spending the time with us. Jennifer, as always, it's a pleasure. Thank you so very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for everything you do, Randy.
All right. Have a good night. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.